bet the bag on myself, you know? I'm not gonna spend my time trying to gather hundreds of you. I'm gonna believe in the power of what God can do with little old me. And I'll lose on that, because it's better to lose trusting God than to win fearing man. You feel me? Don't nobody own us, yeah. Back to back on myself, yeah. Back to back on myself, yeah. Back to back on myself, yeah. Boy, don't nobody own us, yeah. In a lane with myself, yeah. In a lane with myself, yeah. In a lane with myself, yeah. Boy, don't nobody own us.
Ten drivers with a stage set ahead of them for a Bundren Lawn Care Series Championship, and it continues from the land of chaos, the Talladega Superspeedway, where 7 drivers will advance and 3 drivers will be eliminated after tonight. Glad to have you join us for the first round cutoff of these playoffs right here on the KBueno Racing Network. Always glad to have you join us for what will be an insane race. My name is Kenneth Bueno, joined with Charlie Baier on hand for what will be a monumental race to decide the 7 that will move on to the next round. And Charlie, if one thing really stands out at Talladega, really the only wild range that this venue provides and all the unpredictability that it really brings.
Yeah, like we saw earlier today in the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, it was an unpredictable race. We saw lots of good racing throughout. Those guys using each lane, each inch of the racetrack, trying to fight for that position, and we ended up having a photo finish. So this is our Dega doubleheader that we're having on the KBueno Racing Network. We want to thank all you guys for coming out here and watching us. It means a lot to us, the support, and we're getting ready to go racing here.
And the past 2 races really didn't show any driver mercy, as we've seen so many playoff drivers either in trouble or with something holding them back. But here is what has changed in the points after last week's race at the Roval. We're going to recite them for you right now. Parker White is a new points leader, and that's something that changed over the past couple of races into Chicago and the Roval. So lots of things really to discuss here at Talladega, considering the fact that 3 drivers are going to be gone from the playoffs and they're going to be cut off from the championship hunt. So after this race, it's either, give all or nothing at this type of track. And if you're one of the drivers who needs a little boost in the point standings, it's going to be a little thing to know. But here is the point standings right on your screen. Blaze McKinney currently locked in with a win, and right on points leads everything is Parker White, who picked up a spot after last week's face at the Roval. Then goes Glenn Bundren, Nick Miller, who gained 3 spots since the Roval race, finishing 2nd. And Keelan Belsha, J.J. Hill tied for 5th. Then goes Ezekiel Reyes, who is 0 points above this cutoff. Jackson Hartman, 2 points behind. Preston Cope, 11 points behind. Henry Tabor is the final driver. And starting with Jackson Hartman, those are the drivers who will be eliminated after tonight if it does not change. Henry Tabor will be definitely eliminated. He is on vacation, could not make this race, so he will be gone. So it's just about Preston Cope, Hartman, Ezekiel Reyes, and some of the drivers above that need that spot in the cutoff. But we're going to take a look at where we are here in the world with the KBRN Track Map with images provided by Google Earth. We went all the way from the Charlotte Roval, just away a little bit southwest to Talladega Superspeedway, 2.66 miles around this oval, 4 turns, of course, located Talladega, Alabama. Little fun fact about this track, Bill Elliott currently holds the fastest qualifying time in NASCAR history at this racetrack back in 1987 with a 212-mile-per-hour lap. So lots of things to talk about here at Talladega as the drivers start to grid. And Charlie, if there was any keys to be thrown coming into tonight, which really doesn't stand true since there's so much unpredictability, is there really something to expect, or what kind of keys that drivers should be looking out for tonight?
Teammates. Teammates, teammates, teammates. And I cannot express it enough how useful it is having a friend next to your side and right behind you as well. And that will really propel you to the front and have a good run here tonight. Obviously, before the race, I was looking at the 37 and the 87 of Glenn Bundren and Blaze McKinney, but unfortunately, Blaze McKinney is not here tonight. So you might be at a disadvantage because earlier today in the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, we saw those two working together, got up to the front and led half of the race, but unfortunate circumstances took him out. But teammates are your friends, and your friends are where you find them, especially when it comes down to that final lap.
Lots of picking and choosing that needs to be done here at Talladega Superspeedway. And you mentioned Blaze McKinney, unfortunately not here tonight and not running in this field due to a power outage due to the derecho storm that hit just a couple of hours back in Indiana and pretty much all the states up north. So he's replaced by Benjamin Fanning, who won't be running for points since Blaze is already locked in. So he'll be running the 87 car in replacement for tonight's event. But you see the field gridded up on the start-finish line here at Talladega Superspeedway. Great time to go over where each and every driver will start in this field for tonight's action here at Talladega. Parker White sets the fastest time, a pole lap of the 51.039. He's looking to continue his momentous run through these playoffs, starting on pole tonight. Right alongside him, the driver who needs points, 0 points above this cutoff, Ezekiel Reyes starts in second.
Starting in the second row, last week's winner, road course ringer Brody Garner, and then number 55 Dogecoin Chevy Camaro, starting third place for Blue Chew Americas. And to his outside, Jonathan T. Jones, a name we haven't seen in a while. I believe he got suspended for 2 races after the conclusion of, I believe, Chicago. No, yes, you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but he was suspended for 2 races, but he is back here racing with us tonight.
Then back to row number 3, his peak performance driver Hunter Rupp starts in 5th, and then right alongside him is a driver who needs a couple of points just to stay above this cutoff and stay comfortable into the next round. That is the 37.
Right behind them, Eli O'Quinn raced with us in the LWRC Cup Series earlier today at this very track. Had a decent finish right inside the top 5. He starts 7th, and AJ Bain in the 097 car starts right outside of him in 8th place.
And back to row number 5 will be Nick Miller in the 88, who had a second place finish at the Roval. He is currently sitting well in the point standings. And right beside him, a driver we haven't seen in a little while, finally coming back to the series, is the 28 of Jack DeAndrea. Really happy to see him tonight. He starts 10th.
And right behind him, Dominic Howe, running for Proximity Racing, starts right outside the top 10 in 11th place. And to his outside, Aaron Maroney, old teammate of that number 30 car. Aaron Maroney, driving for SBG Evo SimSport, starts in the 12th position.
Then a look back to row number 7, Richmond Showow, Jacob Tyler May starts into 13th, and right beside him will be the 040 of Sean Dobson into 14th. And we're going to take a look back at all the other rows that we'll see and all the other drivers in this field that round out a large field here at Talladega Superspeedway to go green for playoff elimination racing. 2 playoff drivers at the start of this front row. It'll be Parker White, one driver who's perfectly comfortable into the next round, and one driver who needs a little bit of a boost to get into the second round come next week. Pace car will line off onto pit road. The field will go down the agonizingly long tri-oval section where the finish line is just a little bit further ahead, right in between the exit of the tri-oval and the entrance to turn 1. So they'll go down the tri-oval very, very slowly at pace speed. And as soon as the 95 steps on the gas pedal, we will be green very, very soon. The flagman has a green flag in hand. The 95 and the 04 ready to bring the action. We are green from Talladega, where the playoff will be cut off very, very soon. Lap 1 of a 70-lap race about to be set in the books here. Ezekiel Reyes got the jump out front with
another playoff driver right behind him, Parker White. And if you want to know where these playoff drivers are and who they are, you just have to look for that green banner on the spoiler and right above the windshield. So, it's easy to find them, but they're all getting started as of right now. But Dominic Howe and Nick Miller, those two guys are very experienced racing around each other in an Ice Car series. They're coming up front. Glenn Bundren behind them.
A long tirade down the inside, starting with Ezekiel Reyes, but it looks like that outside is starting to finally pick up with Dominic Howe and Nick Miller right to the outside. They're going to charge right to the 04 with Glenn Bundren, AJ Bain, Sean Dotson along to help. They will try to form this larger line and try to get around these race leaders. And really, at Talladega, you really have to think about where you have to be and your placement of your race car, because you can be put in a very dire situation very, very quickly, or be in a position much like Glenn Bundren was in right there, getting shuffled out of the way and getting pushed out of the line, and you have to kind of file back, wait for everyone to get around you, find where you're clear, and try to get around them as soon as possible and get back in line to not lose the draft. But here is the battle for the race seed and for second place. Parker White is in the middle of this one on the inside line. Jonathan Jones right there behind in the Chevrolet Camaro, a white, red, and blue Pepsi scheme for Dominic Howe and Nick Miller all together. Handful of playoff drivers here. We'll see how they work into turn 3 and 4.
Yeah, and you mentioned being put in dire situations, but at a track like this, there really is no safe spot. Even out front in the lead, you can still get turned by the car behind. So you really, this track, much like Daytona, is well known for being luck-based, and really getting lucky is really the key to getting out front and winning the race. I usually tend to agree with that, but especially when you have a lot of better drivers, like these drivers up front are showcasing their ability to at least keep a line at Talladega or Daytona. But, yeah, there really is no safe space at a track like this.
And it's the first time they see Superspeedway since the season opener of Daytona. Lots of drivers in this field were not there for that season opener, so this is the first time they run a Superspeedway race in this season, and for pretty much a good chunk of these drivers, it's the first time they reach a Superspeedway ever since that beginner race at Daytona, where everything pretty much started for this series. But when you spend so much time off of these super speedways, you kind of maybe just a little bit forget about how dangerous it is and how kind of skeptical you can be about this type of racing, because it's so quick, so reaction based. You really have to kind of work around the speed, work in the draft, try to find the best people to support you, and try to help around this racetrack, try to find people to trust, and maybe people you kind of don't want to be around in terms of anticipating trouble. But since they've been so long without seeing a super speedway, it does kind of affect the way these drivers kind of handle these races, especially the playoff drivers who have been here since day one.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of these guys, I'm noticing a lot of these guys who are in the field right now haven't really been around since the Daytona race, and obviously they kind of have to give a little bit of respect to these playoff guys, obviously, because you don't want to go out there, actually cause a big one, take out a bunch of playoff guys, and that's just not, I don't know. You don't want to do it, basically, so you want to give respect to these playoff guys, but then again, you're racing your own race, and you can still go for a win if you want. I kind of got lost in my thoughts there.
Yeah, it's exactly not ideal if you're one of those drivers, because you kind of want to be in the point where you want to battle for the race win, you want to stay aggressive, but at the same time, you don't really want to affect any of the drivers in the playoffs, because if you do, that could be lots of trouble for you, especially if anything happens there along with the playoff drivers that could potentially affect them going into next race. But a couple playoff drivers in the mix here in this front group, but a lot of playoff drivers not showing out exactly right now in this main group. A lot of them are still hanging back in this field. Obviously, Ezekiel Reyes, Parker White have been leading the field since the drop of the green flag. Those two are playoff drivers. And then you have to look back all the way to Nick Miller, all the way further back on the inside line to reach another playoff driver. And then obviously a large group behind there where you see Preston Cope and, of course, Benjamin Fanning and a couple other drivers back there as well. J.J. Hill, Keelan Belsha, those drivers are in the playoffs, but they are kind of just laying back. Glenn Bundren is further back behind Nick Miller. So lots of playoff drivers kind of sneaking out of this one for now. I think they might be anticipating something to happen in this main group. But so far, Dominic Howe has been in contention with the 04 of Ezekiel Reyes for this race lead. Has yet to pass him, but he's got help from the 28.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen a good bunch of drivers who have had the opportunity to try to push Dominic out of the race lead. Obviously, Jack DeAndre up there. As of right now, we saw AJ Bain, Nick Miller. Those guys have all backed out, maybe because of engine temps, but actually engine temps, that's a topic that we haven't brought up yet. Engine temps, that's really important. And when you're pushing someone for so long, you really have to manage them. And if they get too high, if they get above 284 degrees, I believe, that'll start to turn red, and you have to really be cautious. So, you know, you have the tendency to push them all you want, but you still have to manage those times, and it's really, really important.
Always something to consider when you go here at Talladega Superspeedway, especially most of the drivers giving pushes. You know, you have to try to balance pushing enough on the driver in front of you while also getting the fresh air on your race car to keep your engine cool for the time being, because if you keep that going and you don't manage to get fresh air whatsoever, your engine can blow up quick, and then that can easily signify the end of your racing night here at Talladega. But so far, we are looking at a couple of groups forming in. Jacob Tyler May is now to the top of the racetrack with help from AJ Bain. They're going to try to work together now with the Ford Mustang behind them, trying to hook up, and here comes Jack DeAndre to the top, so 3 wide for the race lead with Dominic Howe stuck in the middle. Yeah,
Jack DeAndre just kind of ditched out the 30 car of Dominic Howe. If he can get by him, then it'll be worth it, but if he can't, that middle line is still going to surge forward, and that outside line is kind of slowing down here, so I don't know if that was the right move for the 28 car, but it is a bit early to see this 3 wide, but it definitely is fun to see. But if I were these guys, I would just try to back off and run a little more conservatively.
I think that might be the statement, at least the mindset for the playoff drivers that are further back. Nick Miller, Glenn Bundren, they probably were anticipating something like this to happen, so that's probably why they were sticking back in the group a little bit more rather than staying up front, much like these 2 leaders have. So a bunch of non-playoff drivers here to fight for a race win, along with the 2 playoff drivers up front. We have yet to have a convincing lead change, at least. It has been all Ezekiel Reyes. Obviously, the challenges from Dominic Howe, and now with Jack DeAndre, there's still 3 wide for the race lead, but the shortest way around the racetrack seems to be the most effective, with Ezekiel Reyes kind of inching out every single time they reach the turns, and then that pretty much gives him a nice leeway, and it gives him a nice cushion, at least to keep himself in the lead and lead more laps. And this is what you need if you're Ezekiel Reyes. You need laps led. You need to stay up front. You need a good finish, because if not, you can easily get out of this playoffs. And Zeke did not have a great run at the Roval last week. He pretty much did not really start the race whatsoever, so he lost a lot of points going into there. That's why he's on the cutoff, and that's exactly why he needs the run that he needs right now, because if he stays up here, he's able to get those points above the drivers back there, Preston Cope, you know, and Jackson Hartman, who I think is not here in this session. So lots of points to be added for Ezekiel Reyes right now, especially in the race lead.
Yeah, I was going to mention how important this is right now for Zeke. This is, I know it's lap 10, but this is currently the best case scenario. He's out there leading laps, getting those bonus points, and eventually, if this race comes to a close and you stay green, he'll be there at the end. He could possibly take the win, and that could really lock up him punching his ticket for the next round. Oh, contact between the 30 and the 1 car. That's Dominic Howe and Ezekiel Reyes up the racetrack. That'll handily the Parker White. Big contact there in the tri-oval.
That kind of shuffled everybody there in that first group, and now Ezekiel Reyes falls back in this first group. He's going to have to find a little area to kind of merge back in, and I think he's found it right in front of Nick Miller. He does. So back into the draft as the 04. He's going to get a little help from the 88, but not the ideal situation for the 04 there. Had to back out very, very quickly, or things could have gotten ugly. But right now we have a shift for the race lead. Now Jonathan Jones has moved up a lane. He's going to have the help from the 30 of Dominic Howe, who's been up there so far all race long. And now Parker White's going to have a little bit of help from the 014 of Cole Woody, who has been in these races the past couple of weeks. He's made his show out a couple of times. Now he's continuing to do the same thing with Hunter up right behind him.
And Parker White up to the race lead. He's 46 points above the cutoff, so he is good. He can go out there and race how he wants, but, you know, as we shuffle into the next round, your positions are in 5-point increments. So if you're the points leader, you're 5 points ahead of second place, and it trickles down for there by 5-point increments. Oh, that one gets turned. The 95 around. We're wrecking on the back straightaway.
Parker White is around in front of the entire field. That is a large wreck, and more drivers piling in. Preston Cope had to get around that one. AJ Bain and multiple drivers involved. On the first caution here at Talladega, Benjamin Fanning is in this group as well. Keelan Belsha, another playoff driver, has damage, and a large wreck involving a good chunk of the drivers up front sets the first caution of the evening at Talladega lap number 13. Gonna have to take a replay and see exactly what started this incident while we were under green. It started up here, obviously, with Jonathan Jones. There was Dominic Howe and Parker White, Cole Woody. We'll see if there was any contact initially. And I think right about here, there is the push. Yeah, Dominic Howe just not the right angle and gets into Jonathan Jones, who gets into Parker White and collects a couple other drivers. I'm pretty sure I saw Cole Woody in there as well. The 83 of Joe Berge is in there. Keelan Belsha had some damage. I saw Brody Garner going around as well. Hunter Rupp, I think, had a wild ride going through turn 3. Here's an aerial shot, and there's the bump that sent them around. You see Hunter Rupp in there, Aaron Maroney with damage. And here's a little bit further back. Keelan Belsha just slammed into the back of Brody Garner, trying to slow down for the wreck. And that gives him damage that he definitely needs to repair going down pit road. So the first caution of the evening belongs to the drivers up front. And a large wreck to set the tone early on.
Yeah, I'm surprised. It looks like just a bad bump from the 30 car. Obviously, Dominic Howe, if you know him as a driver, he's a really good super speedway racer, but you know, even the best racers are prone to making those mistakes, and just really tough to see some of these playoff guys using their one faster pair that they have, like Keelan Belsha and Parker White. Now those guys are going to have to be really conservative in you know, trying to run really conservative. But down pit lane for the first time, we're going to see a lot of guys. Fast pair. Sean Dobson gets turned on the pit road.
Sean Dobson has trouble amongst the other drivers that were getting into pit road. I believe Jacob Tyler May was also in there as well, as the entire field goes down pit road, most of them obviously for damage repair. There's Parker White further back on your screen, and Jacob Tyler May exits pit road, and so does Hunter Rupp. So we'll see how they line up. Looks like Hunter Rupp will be the leader off pit road. Jonathan Jones gets his fast repair, Jack DeAndrea, Cole Williams, and a couple of the drivers, Mark Love also there. And you see all the drivers starting to get their repairs. And again, you just mentioned fast repairs. That's also another key strategy to be played in this race, obviously coupled up with the fuel strategy and the tire strategy that we're looking at. There's the incident. That is Aaron Maroney and the 040 of Sean Dobson. That was the cause of that incident down pit road. But the fast repairs, if you get that fast repair early, you have to stay conservative through the rest of this race, and you can't, you know, you have to really bank on staying careful through this race and not getting any damage, because if you get that damage, you need to get that repair down pit road, and you won't have any kind of easy exit out of having that damage. You see the damage on Aaron Maroney on the front bumper from that incident with Sean Dobson. He's going to have a little bit more time on pit road. And that's exactly what happened with Nick Miller at Darlington a couple weeks back, where he had the damage. He did not get the fast repair. He ended up getting the repair on pit road and then took the fast repair later in the race to try and pounce on the rest of the field. That could be a situation we might be seeing. But speaking of Nick Miller, he stayed out on the racetrack. He is currently your race leader under caution.
Yeah, Nick Miller and Neil Quinn both stayed out. I would assume Nick is going to come in and try to top off this lap. He's just trying to get to the back, but yeah, just tough. That's tough to wreck that early in a race. And you know, a lot of these playoff guys have stayed safe, like Glenn Bundren and Ezekiel Reyes. Zeke backed out just a few laps before it happened, so you know, it's kind of like he predicted that would happen, and that move did work out for him. Parker White took his fast repair, so did Keelan Belsha. So yeah, I don't expect the 95 and the 18 to run towards the back and really just try to make it to the end at this point.
And for Ezekiel Reyes, that was pretty much a blessing in disguise, falling out of the group, and then the wreck happens right in front of him where he's able to escape, and he's able to kind of get away with no damage. So I think that might have been the best situation for Zeke there, instead of staying up front, because Zeke could have possibly involved in that incident. That would have been a dire situation for him, currently on the cutoff for the playoffs. While we're in the yellow, a good reminder to let you know that if you want to join the conversation with us up in the KBRN booth, you can do so by using hashtag AskKBRN. Of course, you can put your hashtag AskKBRN followed by your question. We'll be sure to answer it just as soon as you send it. And as soon as I say that, we got one by Reese Kupski Graphics. Asks, how do we feel about the next few races? Charlie, I was going to mention this probably later in this race, especially when this race concluded, looking onto the future, but we have just a handful of tracks that'll look into the rest of the season. A couple of mile and a halves, and of course Auto Club in there, Bristol in there, and then we kind of have a short track tirade with Phoenix, Bristol, Martinsville being in that mix. Is there something to kind of look forward to? Is there something kind of to expect, maybe anticipate in those next three races, considering how different this one is compared to the other cutoffs?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. Yeah, you stop. You cut off. Go ahead.
All right, well, I was going to ask about the next few races from Reese Kupski Graphics, who asked a question concerning the next few races in the schedule. And, you know, going after this race here, Talladega, we have Martinsville, Auto Club, Bristol, Phoenix, so kind of a short track tirade. Is there anything really to expect within those next couple of races to kind of set the tone, or at least kind of bring more tension to the playoff picture?
Yeah, I could tell you that the next round is not going to be as intense. Well, the tracks in next round are not going to be as chaotic as this round. We went to Chicago. That was fantastic race. We went to Roval, which was a toss-up. Brody Garner won that one. And this race to end round 1 is also a toss-up. So, yeah, we have a super speedway road course and a 1.5 miler. So that really shook up the standings in this round. But I would expect next round to be a lot more calmer. And those playoff guys, the competition gets stiffer from there, and they're going to try to make it through.
So base car is going down pit road. You see the rest of the field went to top off. They're going to be single file through the rest of this field. Looks like Jacob Tyler May and Darren Myers will lead your field to green. A Toyota Camry and a Ford Mustang, along with Mark Love, Ezekiel Reyes, Sartaj Mon, Cole Williams, and then goes Hunter Rupp, AJ Bain among the drivers who went down pit road. So they'll go down the tri-oval. We'll take the first restart of the evening with Jacob Tyler May up front. We're back green on lap number 16, all to the 10. Gonna get a little shove from the 43 and the 04. Now we're gonna turn 1 as they all bunch up. Clean through 1 and 2 as they are 3 wide behind. That is Darren Myers, who fell back, along with AJ Bain, who's trying to pounce on this one early. And so far, single fought to the rest of this field. I think after this yellow with so many cars involved, I know as soon as I say that we got some cars involved. I'm not sure whether anyone went around. I don't think anyone did. I saw Nick Miller in that one. I saw AJ Bain. I think JJ Hill might have had a piece of that as well, but no yellow. No one goes around. Thankfully, no other yellow there. That could have been significantly large, and that almost would have been a second yellow of the evening. Thank goodness it was not. You see Jack DeAndrea split down the middle, and we'll take a replay to see exactly what went down here. It started up this group, and contact between Darren Myers and AJ Bain goes down the racetrack, almost gets into Nick Miller, and then Nick Miller has to wheel the car back up the racetrack out of harm's way instead of going into the rest of this field. So very, very great job by Nick Miller there, and that could have been large. That
could have been a lot worse than it played out here, but I don't know if something happening up here, but these guys are spread out once again. That 43 car dropped back.
I think some of the drivers are starting to take more of a conservative approach, and that kind of transitions into one of the questions that we have by Co-Hankinator asks, why is this a single file restart, or at least what we saw was a single file restart? Yeah, well, it was the drivers who went down to pit road on the 1 to green signal to kind of top off and get some of either fuel or damage repair. So they went down pit road, and then that enabled them to be all single file rather than double file through the restart. So that's exactly why you saw that. But as soon as we get all the yellows, if they don't top off in that sort of fashion, we won't see any drivers doing that, and we'll see double file restarts from here on out. Another question by Francisco while we're under the green flag asks, in this particular race, do you want to be aggressive up front, or do you want to be conservative in the rear? I think that's one of the bigger debates, considering we have a playoff driver like Ezekiel Reyes up there. We saw Parker White up here. Now Nick Miller's in this main group. And then further back, you have the other playoff drivers like Parker White now, like Glenn Bundren, like Keelan Belsha, JJ Hill, Preston Cope. All those drivers, is there kind of a better decision in terms of staying aggressive, or is it just individualistic in terms of situation?
I think it's really preference. There's not really a safer option because, each option has its benefits and it also has its downsides. Because staying up front, you're obviously prone to a bit more wrecks because everyone's more aggressive up there. But a pro of that is, if this goes caution free like LWRC Cup Series did for most of earlier today, then you're going to be at the end. But if you stay in the back and it goes caution free and you lose that draft, then you're not going to be up front. You're not going to be in it towards the end. So you really have to predict with these type of racers that you're racing with if they're going to wreck, and if you think they're going to wreck, you can either stay up front or go towards the back. But we're starting to see a lot of guys start to fall back a little bit. I don't know if that was because of the restart or it's optional, but I know some guys are definitely taking that conservative strategy.
Yeah, you see this first group, they're seeming to not take anything conservatively at the moment, staying in this pack 2 by 2, starting with Sartaj Mon leading that outside group, and then you see this one further back, led by Parker White, and then a couple other drivers there. And here's another second group here, starting with Jack DeAndrea, Sean Dobson, Glenn Bundren, Aaron Maroney, and then further back goes William Schmidt, Cole Woody, Jonathan Jones. Speaking of Jonathan Jones, he asked how his right front looks, and it looks perfect from right now. At least from right now, from that damage from the early wreck.
That's good.
And no damage on that Chevrolet Camaro. I believe he used his fast repair going down pit road. So currently working with Eli O'Quinn, trying to make something happen in the draft. But another good point by you, Charlie, that, you know, it kind of depends. You know, it's all about what you kind of want to do. There's always ups and downs to whatever decision you make in this race, or in any race, really. Because if you stay up front aggressive, you have that risk of people wrecking around you, or people making a mistake, or you possibly getting put in a tight position where you kind of have nowhere to go, and that could be the result of a lot of wrecks we see tonight. As we go 3 wide, there's Shane DiMantova outside with Nick Miller trying to push the middle, gain some positions for one he lost a little bit earlier, and looks like SPG team is going to work together. There's Shane DiMantova, Aaron Maroney, there goes Sean Dobson, William Schmidt, now packing up into this main group. But if you try to stay conservative in the rear, the only downside really is that if you try there, you could possibly lose out on this draft and then potentially fall further back down the order and stay lots of seconds behind. And if you stay green, then you start to have a pit cycle start to go around your mind. You have to start thinking about how you're going to attack the pit strategy and try your best to not get lapped on the racetrack, because if you get lapped on the racetrack with your strategy, it could potentially put you in a hole that you might not get out of. It just depends on what happens in the race, but it's just all preferences. It pretty much depends on any of the drivers and what their opinions are. But so far, we got a battle for the race lead. Looks like Ezekiel Reyes moved up to try and lead more laps in this race. He is definitely not afraid to go up front and be aggressive very early on, especially since he needs those points. With the help from Darren Myers, he's going to try to charge to the outside of Jacob Tyler May off turn 4.
Yeah, I'm shuffling through this main pack in my mind here, but I'm really seeing a lot of SPG Evo Sim Sport cars. They're all bunched up almost 4 wide right there. You see the 88 of Nick Miller, the 20 of Shane DiMantova, the 2 of Aaron Mulrooney, and the 49 of Sartaj. Man, we're 3 wide once again in a turn number 1 on lap number 24. But I think if those guys get all lined up, maybe on the top, I think they're going to surge toward the front, because I know that team is very advanced, and they know they work really well together. I would expect them to link up and try to make that charge to the front, especially late in the race.
Well, there's an SPC sandwich all the way at the top. Looks like Nick Miller dives a little bit lower on the lane behind Darren Myers, but there was Aaron Mulrooney right in front of Ezekiel Reyes, and Nick Miller was there to help. Now to the bottom, looks like he's not going to be there to help, and now he moves up, so he'll try to help them move along towards the front of the field. Glenn Bundren might be in that group as well. Jack DeAndrea, who we haven't seen in a long time. We saw him at Michigan a couple weeks back. We really haven't seen him since, and he's been a pretty decent driver. He's been able to get strategy in the right way. He's been up front in a good amount of times, and it's always great to see him back considering how long he's been absent in this series. And right now, looking to third, I think he's one of those drivers that really just wants to go send it and go for it early on rather than just kind of stay back.
Yeah, definitely. He still has a fast repair left. Looks like he's going to jump up, but he does have a bit of internet issues. Those guys realize that, and they're going to try to get by him. He's in the sucker hole as of right now. They're probably going to surge by him here.
So 2 large groups, and Jack DeAndrea stuck in the middle. He's going to have to find an opening somewhere, either on the inside or the outside, to try and get back in the draft and not kind of fall through this hole all the way to the back of this main group. But looks like that enabled this inside line to really catch up a little bit more, and Jacob Tyler May continues to lead this race, followed by Cole Williams, Joe Berge, who got his fast repair from the first incident, now into third on that inside line. Darren Myers moves to the bottom. Hunter Rupp now leads the top with Sartaj Mon and Aaron Mulrooney, Ezekiel Reyes, Nick Miller, Eli O'Quinn, Glenn Bundren back there in this first group, as well as Shane DiMantova. And there goes Jacob Tyler May, your race leader. He's going to kind of go back. I don't think he kind of likes the situation he's looking at right now up front. I think he's just going to back out, try to see what happens, try to get out of harm's way if anything happens. But we have another question down the YouTube chat by the man, Reese Kupski Graphics. He asked, who has the biggest chance to win this race? I know it's kind of a toss-up here, Talladega, Charlie, but if there was really any driver you kind of have your eye on that might have the best chance, might be the best strategic driver in this race, who would it be?
Oh, God. I'll get my thoughts in a second, because Hunter Rupp just took the race lead. Sartaj, man, tried to dip below him. Are they going to make contact? No, he won't. He kind of chops his nose off into turn number 1 there. Here comes Aaron Maroney with Zeke Reyes, but while he's there, I might as well just say, I think Aaron Maroney probably has the best shot at winning this race. He's a very, very experienced driver. If Blaze McKinney was here, I would definitely say him, but I think the second best driver out of Super Speedway, and just in iRacing in general in terms of experience to the race lead right now, my pick is Aaron Maroney.
I think it's very comfortable to pick Aaron Maroney since he's one of the better drivers, and he's one of the more skillful drivers in iRacing and across the leagues that we have been able to broadcast, especially this one. So right now to the race lead, he'll lead his first laps of the evening, but I think, in my opinion, if anyone really stands out the most, I think if anyone really kind of is in the spot, especially who has the higher chance to win, I think Ezekiel Reyes might be a good shot, because the fact that he is so up the cutoff right now, the fact that he is on that bubble, I think it gives him a lot more motivation to try and run up front like he has been over this race. As you see, Keelan Belsha now stuck a lap down. I think he'll just try to move out the way of these leaders, try to get out of harm's way. But Ezekiel Reyes has the highest aggressiveness right now. He certainly has that fuel, and he certainly has that fire right up within him to try and run for the race lead. He just took the race lead over Aaron Maroney. So Ezekiel Reyes, I think in his situation, I think he's kind of benefiting off of his back against the wall. I think he's definitely going to make a shot, especially have a higher chance to win tonight's event.
Yeah, I would have to agree, but both of our picks are lined up on the bottom there. Here comes Nick Miller. He's got a teammate right behind him. His Evo C4 powered by SPG. And to the lead goes Nick Miller. First time we've seen him up here all night. Currently 13 points ahead of the cutoff, so he's definitely not safe in terms of being eliminated. But that leaves Shane DiMantovo with Jonathan T. Jones and Glenn Bundren up there with Jack Danger as well. But I'm looking at these guys on the bottom. These guys are all from IceCar, the other league. These guys are all buddies. I'm sure they're in a voice chat right now, but they all know each other really well, and they know how to race with each other really well, because they actually had a Super Speedway series for a couple weeks during the summertime. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are going to be the ones up front.
And Nick Miller, who's currently leading this race, again, had lots of doubts going into the Roval last week about whether he was quick, about whether he was able to contend with the rest of the field. And then going into the Roval, he put on a performance, and he finished second. Had a good battle with Brody Garner along the way. Fell short of Brody Garner, but that second place finish really shot him up in the standings and allows him to have that 13-point gap that he has right now. Certainly sitting comfortably right now in these playoffs going into the next round. But Nick Miller, I think with those doubts, even though he's done exceptionally well, definitely probably not too worried about this event. And the fact that he's leading laps right now gives him that extra benefit. When you lead laps, you get points. And if you lead the most laps, you get the points as well. So if you lead the most laps, that points to your name, as Nick Miller gets so loose off of the tri-oval. If you have those points, that makes you even more comfortable knowing that you'll be okay going into the next round, and then you can just have your mind focused on the next couple of races instead of trying to dwell on this one for too long, as you're on board with Ezekiel Reyes currently still sitting in this race lead. It looks like the 04, the 88, and some of the drivers up front have been fairly aggressive in terms of switching back around.
Reed SPG teammates up top here. Nick Miller might go down here. I know he's going to keep the high lane. He's trying to block both lanes here. We saw him on the front straightaway and move up in front of Aaron Maroney. Aaron Maroney couldn't do anything, just stuck behind him. So I think Nick Miller's playing the Dale Jr. game here. Dale Jr. was legendary for being able to work both lines here, and he's holding that pace so far. Usually in this package on iRacing, you can't really do it, but it looks like Aaron Maroney's going to try to get to his outside here.
Aaron Maroney has been in this series for a couple of races, and he's been around for a while, at least in this series. He joined a little bit late, and he did not take part in the earlier races, such as Daytona and some of the races up front, but then he was able to start in this series, and he was able to make a notable impact, and he's been up front fighting for race leads and fighting for top fives, fighting for top tens. Most notably his performance at Charlotte, his performance at Chicago, where he was with his fellow teammate Nick Miller up front, making moves, trying to go for the race lead with Hunter Johnson and Blaze McKinney and the other guys up there. So lots of experience you're seeing up to the front of this field. Lots of drivers who kind of know their way around the iRacing platform, and they kind of have a good idea of what they're able to do and what kind of limitations they have in terms of their ability to make things work here on the iRacing service, especially in this race on the Super Speedway side of things. right now you're looking at lots of SPG and Evo SimSport drivers, at least 3 of them, and actually 4 of them in this main group, including the 49 of Sartaj Mon, who's down in the inside lane. So all SPG, you said it, Charlie, teams, teams, teams. You have those teams and the teammates around you, you can definitely make things work around here.
And it's not just teams, it's your friends and people who have been racing around for a long time, and most notably, people like the Ice Car guys who are currently lined up on the bottom, maybe besides that 42 car, but we're all friends for years. Over in that Ice Car, they've been running that league for, I believe, since 2015. They've known each other for a really, really, really long time, and I'm sure they're really confident with each other here. We also know our friends personally, Kenneth, Jack DeAndrea, Glenn Bundren, Keelan Belcher, JJ Hale. Those guys are our friends, and they work really well with each other sometimes. But it's really finding your friends on the racetrack and having that connection and working really well with each other is really what seals the deal at this racetrack.
He mentioned some of the drivers that we are acquainted with. Obviously, Jack DeAndrea, Glenn Bundren, Shane D. Mantova, JJ Hill, and Keelan Belcher. Fun fact about Keelan Belcher, right before this race, he almost overslept this event and almost was going to be asleep during this race. Luckily, he was able to be woken up or just a little bit before the session opened, so he was able to make it. Currently 1 lap down right now, so he's going to have to try and find a way around that. But he'll definitely have something to remember in terms of getting ready for this series, as looks like the 2 teammates up top, Aaron Mulrooney and Shane Di Mantova, found the hole to the top side of the racetrack. They're going to try to make things work, and so far already pushing ahead of this second pack and second line down there with Glenn Bundren. Looks like nobody else to help, and it looks like this outside line kind of fell through a little bit. They kind of dissipated just a little bit more as most of the drivers that were up here started to fall back a little bit through this inside line. When you find that opening down low, you want to stay where the shortest part of the racetrack is and be the faster way around. So just a couple of cars that fell out of this main pack. William Schmidt you see up there trying to catch up, but nonetheless SPG has really put on a performance here. Jack DeAndrea kind of stuck in the middle.
Yeah, Jack and Nick got to the middle because Nick Miller blocked Aaron Mulrooney up to the top side and couldn't get back down low, and that allowed them to jump to the inside. But Jack DeAndrea, you mentioned he hasn't been on the surface for a while. I'm surprised he's doing as well as he is, but he's currently leading the outside line. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Zeke or Hunter Rupp, if he does get clear in that 61 car, hop up, because Jack is a really good pusher. I've raced with him a lot of times on the iRacing service, and he knows how to get it done.
And something to start thinking about and something to start pondering about whether these drivers will do going later in this race. Pit strategy. As you see some drivers already going down pit road. Jacob Tyler May slamming on the brakes. Eli O'Quinn also suffering the same fate in the grass. Jonathan Jones in this group. Lots of drivers going down pit road, and this will definitely start the pit cycle as Parker White's in the grass spinning around. He did not make it as well. Looks like he's going to have to refire, get back on the pit road. But I was just about to mention it as soon as it happened, the pit strategy. You have to start thinking about whether you can make it to the end and what you kind of have to do to stay up front and partake in the strategy, as there was contact with the 95 that sent him into the grass and spun him around. Now he has that damage on the back bumper. Going to try to get that fixed. But now is the time to think about it. You have to start thinking about whether you're going down pit road, and here they go. Rest of the pack goes in.
And this is the largest group going down pit road. This is the group that I would want to be in. Looks like safe and sound as of right now. Everybody goes for a bit of a slide. Very good job to these guys. Came in all clean. Very, very props to them for coming in that clean. But we still got 3 cars left on the racetrack. These guys are going to be at a really big disadvantage.
I think they might try to stay out to at least take a little bit of laps up to the front and spend a little bit of time up here. Again, non-playoff drivers, so they can take any risks they want to in terms of staying out, making bold strategies, trying new things, because there's not really any consequence other than possibly just losing the race or being involved in something, especially if a yellow comes out. That could potentially help them down the road. But it's just all about taking chances if you're guys that are definitely not in the playoffs and are just looking to have some fun, as now they're going to go down pit road. That 3-car trifecta that are going down pit road now, led by Hunter Rupp, who's hard on the brakes. Might be a speeding penalty for that 61. Goes around, and Sartaj, but I had a bit of contact there as Joe Berge also slips by. So that's another spin. So many drivers locking up the brakes and spinning around down pit road. as here is part of the main group that went down pit road. You see Eli O'Quinn there and Jacob Tyler May, and now catching up is Ezekiel Reyes, Nicky Miller, Shane DiMantova, Cole Williams. Lots of drivers in this main group, lots of split ups. This could possibly be a huge change going down the road.
Yeah, Maroney, I believe, took fuel only. He didn't even take right side tires on that stop, so he just went gas and go here, and he is way ahead of Nick Miller, all those guys, Ezekiel Reyes as well, and people like Shane DiMantova, they're going to work on catching up here. Same with Jack DeAndre and Glenn Bundren. So we're going to see Maroney get freight trained by these cars who took 2 tires in a moment. But yeah, it's kind of surprising to see the biggest group have be the one with no issues. So yeah, we see Sartaj Man there came off the pit road, but contact from, I believe, Hunter Rupp as well. So yeah, we're gonna see this pack start to reassemble, and I'm not actually sure if we can make it to the end on fuel. It might be close.
Yeah, they'll just have to stretch it as they go around. Aaron Mulrooney, that is the group led by Nick Miller, along with a couple other drivers there. And the thing about pitting under the green flag, especially even in a large group, you can easily get strung out and separated very, very quickly. It just depends on how quick the pit stops are and what decisions you try to make. Because, of course, if you take 2 tires, if you don't take any tires at all, or if you take all 4 tires, including fuel, that definitely either lengthens or shortens the pit stop considerably. And if you have those differences in terms of the decisions on pit road, that could definitely shake up how far they are apart on the racetrack. Maybe the driver who took 2 tires is a couple seconds in front of the driver who took all 4 and fuel. So it's all about decisions and all about pit stop decision making as you see this second line start to form with Shane DiMantova, Cole Williams, and Eli O'Quinn. Looks like this is the battle for the race lead right now, as I think Sartaj Maan might be going down pit road to get some extra oh no, that actually Aaron Mulrooney goes down pit road, excuse me. Had a little bit of an SPG kind of mix up there, but Aaron Mulrooney down pit road. He is going to get some extra service. Not sure whether that's topping off or damage control, but we'll just have to see. 2 large lines for this race lead. Shane DiMantova, Nick Miller off turn 2.
Yeah, I was kind of skeptical because I was looking at my telemetry box here, and Aaron Mulrooney just had a 5-second pit stop, and I was assuming that was gas only, but he must have had a bit of a mistake there or something that has to make him come down pit road once again here. But this is currently the pack that we're looking at. It has, I believe, yeah, 6 cars in it. As of right now, we see this little 3-car pack with Sartaj Man, Jack DeAndre, and Glenn Bundren. They are a second and a half behind the leaders, so we'll see if they can catch up. Behind them, we have this 5-car pack with a few more behind, led by Preston Cope. So, yeah, that's really what pit stops do to you guys, or do to these guys. These guys, this little 5-car pack right here is 7 seconds behind the cars in front of them. So, yeah, that's really how much pit stops will shake things up.
So here's a group led by one of the drivers who's further down in the cutoff. That is Preston Cope in the 47, who did not have a great one at the Roval last week. Set him back a couple of points, put him into where he is under the cutoff. So if the playoffs were to end right now, and if the race were to end right now in terms of the cutoff, he will be eliminated from contention. He'll just have to fight through the rest of the season to try to get a good note from the ending of the season and try to do something next season to secure a championship. There is Joe Berge, who pitted with the second group there of Hunter Rupp and I believe Sartaj Maan. Those are the drivers who pitted in that second group. They are falling back just a little bit. You see them further back behind William Schmidt. Those drivers working together, but as soon as the pit strategy started to cycle around, you see lots of drivers in this group, including Benjamin Fanning, who's replacing Blake McKinney.
Benjamin currently 1 lap down on the racetrack, must have caught these guys, but he's in the fight with Jacob Tyler May and also Eli O'Quinn to get that lucky dog spot if the caution were to come out. So yeah, it's kind of dug himself in a bit of a hole here. We'll see if he can try to climb on out of it, but Nick Miller once again blocking both lines on the racetrack.
So 2 lines dominating, including a mixture of lap-down drivers in this mix, including the 83 of Joe Berge, and just like you mentioned, the 87 of Benjamin Fanning. And these guys also catching up in the group as well. Sartaj Maan, Glenn Bundren, Jack DeAndre in this group, and I believe they're also a lap down. And I'm not sure whether they're on this lead lap or still a lap down, but they'll be contending. Okay, so lead lap, they'll be on the lead lap here and trying to catch up to the main group in terms of getting positions on the racetrack. But a good night so far for Glenn Bundren. Had a very, very promising run at Chicago, and then the motor blew, and that was unfortunate for Bundren. And then going into the Roval, did not really have the best run. We saw so many playoff drivers in trouble that week, and going into this week, you kind of need a little bit of a redemption, or at least just a flip around of what happened weeks back. So Glenn Bundren certainly having a better run tonight. I think if he just stays where he is in terms of positioning with so many other non-playoff drivers in the mix, I think he could potentially stay safe and stay comfortable going into the next week's race into the second round, and he'll be there still fighting for a championship going down the road. So as we approach the lap number 45 of this 70-lap event, still a long way to go, just 25 laps remaining in this race. And as we have that, and as the leaders start to go around, I think it's a good time to crank up the volume as we go KBRN, crank it up from Talladega. Lap 47 complete with Shane DiMantova leading this main group. He currently leads this field, leading a couple laps here at Talladega, followed by his fellow teammate Nick Miller. And one of the drivers who is now scooped up to this top line is Cole Williams, who we saw earlier today in the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, finished in the top 5. I believe he finished 4th, so a great one for him, and currently still trying to look for another top 5 streak in the Bundren Lawn Care Series race. And no caution so far, not a lot of shakeups in terms of this main group, obviously coupled in with some of the drivers who are a lap down, but it seems like this main group obviously started to catch up. Sartaj Mon, we saw Glenn Bundren now in this group. Jack DeAndrea just now reached back in. Jacob Tyler May is back in this mix as well. So lots of drivers in contention. Eli O'Quinn in there as well. But Nick Miller challenging for the race lead with Cole Williams right to help. And there was contact with that 42. He really had to wheel that car back straight, had to save it. Now it's out of the draft, so unfortunate for that 42. We're trying to take a replay and see exactly what went down here. You saw the move up from Shane DiMantova to try to block this top lane. As soon as Ezekiel Reyes starts to make the move, you see him trying to move up, and then I think, oh no, actually Nick Miller, contact with Nick Miller happened there, and they both got loose and both were able to save it. So Nick Miller also falling back a little bit in this pack. Cole Williams obviously did not have the good end of the stick, so he is now further back in this group. But we are 3 wide for this front of this pack. Looks like Joe Bergey's in here, who's a lap down. Jack DeAndrea, who is currently on the lead lap, trying to fend with this. Shane DiMantova, Jacob Tyler May in this group as well. Benjamin Fanning, Sartaj Mon. So a mix of lap cars and cars on the lead lap, trying to make things happen as we approach 20 laps to go from Dega, 3 wide up front. And we saw this earlier in the day with the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, where even the drivers who were stuck a lap down, if they were able to find their way in this group and stay in the draft, they would just take the chance and stay there if they can. Try to unlap themselves even if anything happens, and if a caution comes out, they won't be trapped a lap down and won't have to worry about trying to make that ground all the way back up. And we haven't had a yellow just yet, but just like what we saw in the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, anything could happen. Any contact could go down. We saw what happened with Nick Miller and Cole Williams. That could have produced a yellow if one of them were to go around in front of this pack, but luckily none of that happened, so no yellow, still green here on throughout. And they're starting to catch up through another pack down the back straightaway. There's another pack a little bit further up who I think are still on this lead lap or are yet to be lapped, and they're just a little bit further ahead. There's Parker White, Brody Garner, last week's winner at the Roval, and Dominic Howe, who was involved in an incident, who was aggressive up front but has not been able to find his footing all the way back to the front of this field. That 3-car trifecta is going to have to fend off with the rest of these guys, who are also including cars who are stuck a lap down. So maybe even the drivers who are lap down, who are kind of have that little hole to dig out from themselves, they might try to help these guys.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, it looks like we have 7 cars in this pack. That includes the 20 car of Shane DiMantova, the 04 of Ezekiel Reyes, currently sitting second. Glenn Bundren in that 37 car, Nick Miller in that 88 car, Jack DeAndrea in the 28, Mark Love in the 43, and rounding out is William Schmidt. So, yeah, it's still a bit confusing trying to decipher which cars are lapped down and which aren't. But back to the race lead, Shane DiMantova tried to hop up and get past Joe Bergy, the lap car, but that allowed Ezekiel Reyes to get back up there, and also Glenn Bundren, currently sitting second.
Now, I was mentioning Glenn Bundren's good run, and he's continuing it right now, currently into second, battling with Shane DiMantova for that spot. That leaves Ezekiel Reyes to fend for this race lead right behind the lap car of Joe Bergy, catching up to this 3-car train here, beginning and ending with Dominic Howe and Parker White amongst those drivers in that group. So they'll be catching them along the back straightaway, possibly going into turn 3. There they are in the front of your screen. So they'll be catching them as a large group. And not much 2-wide action now, as Aaron Mulrooney will start to go up high, try to help Shane DiMantova get back in this one as well. I saw a couple drivers fall out of this main pack. The 87 is there, Eli O'Quinn, William Schmidt, Jack DeAndrea among those drivers who've fallen out. But look at them trying to get around, scrambling around the racetrack to get around the pack. And here comes Nick Miller through the middle. Maybe Ezekiel Reyes will try to get through. Looks like all of them filed through very correctly. Some drivers getting off the pit road, starting with Preston Cope.
Yeah, Nick Miller saw Glenn Bundren go up the racetrack and took that opportunity to take the position away. The winner, 3 by 3, deep into this pack. It looks like they're going to try to sort it out 2 back 2 wide here. But yeah, I think this Ezekiel Reyes still has the race lead, and now Nick Miller moves into second, Mark Love into third.
And Mark Love has had such a promising handful of races. At Chicago, he was up there within the main group, and he was able to battle for top 10. At the Roval, he was also pretty much there in that 43 car. So he has had some pretty good runs over the past couple of weeks. He's been able to keep himself together. As we got a crash right in front of the pack, including Mark Love. That is a lot of drivers involved. Jacob Tyler May, Nick Miller, Dominic Howe, Shane DiMantova, Benjamin Fanning, and a second caution is ignited on lap 55 with just 15 laps remaining in this race. A second yellow is triggered. Brody Garner, I think, looks to be the victim on that one. Jack DeAndrea with damage. Glenn Bundren with heavy front-end damage. Lots of playoff drivers in this one. Huge wreck on lap 56.
Wow. I did not expect that. These guys, I mean, well, it was kind of skeptical having all these cars 3 by 3 like that. I was looking away from my screen. I didn't even see that happen. Wow, that's really tough for some of these guys.
we'll try to take a replay, and it started right there with Brody Garner, who got a hook from the 30 of Dominic Howell. There goes Ezekiel Reyes around Jack DeAndrea. Lots of drivers piling in. That is pretty much every driver in this pack with damage. I can't believe it.
All I gotta say is wow to that. That took out a lot of the front runners there, and some of these guys who already used their fast repair are now out permanently.
And that means drivers who are stuck a lap down, well, at least the only driver that got out from this pack, Joe Berge, he's going to be able to stay on this lead lap and contend now as they re-rack and drivers are going down pit road. I saw a couple drivers exiting pit road just, I believe, a lap before this, including Preston Cope and I think a couple other drivers in that group. I'm not sure who else was there, but those drivers are exiting pit road as soon as that happened. Now drivers going on pit road. There's Mark Love, Eli O'Quinn, Brody Garner, Nick Miller, William Schmidt, Jack DeAndrea. But that enables a lot of the drivers to lap down, especially as these lead lap cars have damage. That definitely helps their situation in order to get back in this race and possibly contend for a win.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to see who still has their fast repair left. I'm curious about Nick Miller. We'll see here. Yeah, he does have his fast repair left. Glenn Brunson as well. And wow, that pack of cars flew apart in a split second. It was like shattering glass right there, all over the place. But wow, this changes everything. We're gonna restart with almost 10 laps to go here in this race, and this is also allowing people like Parker White, who we mentioned, got in the wreck earlier. Kind of botched his pit road entry with contact there. He's going to get the wave around. He stayed out while these guys were pitting, and with the 1 to green signal, he'll get his lap back.
And that also plays into the factor of keeping that fast repair for the end and trying to keep it as best as you can. So Jack DeAndrea, lucky to have that fast repair at the end of this race. He now uses it from here on out, so he's going to have to try and stay careful of any damage or any wrecks from here on out, as well as Nick Miller, Glenn Bundren. Lucky for those drivers that they saved that, because if they did not, that could have been signifying the end of their night and possibly could have shaken up the points dramatically and could have enabled a bunch of other drivers to be exited from these playoffs. Again, some drivers not in this race that are in contention for the playoffs, that are usually at the fate of elimination. Jackson Hartman is not here in this field, and neither is Henry Tabor, obviously for personal reasons could not make the event. So those drivers definitely will be eliminated at the end of tonight. No points to gain for them. So it'll just leave Preston Cope as the last driver to be eliminated, and at least the one closest to the cutoff. And if we have anything happen like this, if we have things like this happen where playoff drivers get involved in trouble, that could allow Preston Cope to gain spots and benefit from this and gain points and kind of escape himself out of the situation that he's in right now to make the playoffs for the next couple of weeks and make it into the second round. So we'll just have to see how that shakes out. As you see the drivers who stayed out, there's Preston Cope up there behind Cole Williams and Darren Myers and Jonathan Jones, Cole Woody, Brody Garner in the car you're looking at right now, Mark Love. And there goes Preston Cope down pit road, so he's going to get service. Not Preston Cope, excuse me. That's the 87 of Benjamin Fanning who goes down pit road. So he will get service. Drivers will start to shake their way out. And we got a question from Francisco. As you see Parker White exiting pit road on the pit road exit line. He asked, before this next restart here, which could possibly be the final one if we don't have a wreck, what are our picks to win this race? Who are the ones to watch? And what are some of the hot takes we might see through this race? Charlie, I'll start with you.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I've been in this situation before on iRacing. I can tell you that even off the final corner, on the white flag, even off the final corner, you're likely the odds are against you. So I can tell you that this last stretch of 11-10 laps are going to be some of the wildest we've seen all season. We're going to see 3 wide, even stretching 4 wide. So my pick for this win overall. I really think he's going to try to claw himself back to the field. My pick is still that number... still out on the racetrack. Oh, Aaron Maroney is 3 laps down. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to change my pick to that 88 car. I think he's going to claw through the pack and maybe score a win here. I'm going to go with Nick Miller.
Well, I think if anyone is pretty much aggressive up here and anyone who's kind of willing to get that win, I think my opinion has changed. I had Ezekiel Reyes up here, and I know he's going to be aggressive. Definitely, he's going to try to get up through this field like he has been so much through this race already. But I think Jack DeAndrea has been one of the key consistent drivers that we saw. Of course, involved in that last incident, but has that fast repair to his advantage. So now he has a clean race car, and he's been able to stay in the group without any trouble. and he's been able to kind of keep himself where he is. He's been pretty smart in handling where he has been in terms of his decision making. So I think with his placement, and especially his awareness of placement, I think Jack DeAndrea might come up with the first win, even though he's a non-playoff driver, to get that done here tonight. But all dependent on what's going to happen from here on out. William Schmidt and Mark Love will lead this field. First time those two are up here this entire race. Mitch Hobbs will occupy row 2 with the driver that I picked, Jack DeAndrea. Then goes row 3, Glenn Bundren, Joe Berge, and then Zika Reyes, Sartaj Mana, a bunch of the playoff drivers, including the ones in the main group who were involved in that incident. Pace car comes off of pit road, down a pit road, down the long tri-oval where Mark Love will decide on whether he wants to start this field for the green flag with William Schmidt alongside. We'll see if he has any strategy with the 2 Camaros up front. So down this tri-oval, the flagman is ready to wave this green flag. Another restart, lap number 59. We'll see if this is the last one from here on out. We'll just have to find out. Green flag is back out. Mark Love leads the field with William Schmidt right next to him.
I think by now all bets are pretty much off. You know, it's the last stretch of the race. You really just want to link up with someone and find out. I think this top 5 is not going anywhere. No one's going to try to, you know, drop out and go towards the back. All bets are off, like I just said. I think, you know, these guys are all in it to win it.
And Mark Love gets the push from Jack DeAndrea to the bottom with Glenn Bundren to help. They will file and get the advantage off of turn number 4. Looks like that outside lane will start to form as William Schmidt and Mitch Hobbs have been working together in tandem. But now Sartaj Mana and the SPG Evo Simsport drivers are going to try to help with Shane DiMantova up there. It looks like Hunter Rupp will file down to the bottom. Eli O'Quinn and the rest of this group will spread out. 10 laps remaining here at Talladega. We'll find out who will make it back if we don't have a caution from here on out. We'll just have to find out as the 43 of Mark Love continues to lead this field. Jack DeAndrea almost gets split down the middle, and I think he does almost contact. That was Glenn Bundren that had to check up in order to stay away from the yellow line rule. That allows William Schmidt to get back up to this race lead, side by side, 2 by 2 all the way down.
3 drivers up top here. The 79, the 89, and the 49 are all buddies. They know how to work with each other, and in the IceCar Superspeedway series as well, they've worked with each other really well. Mitch Hobbs won the championship for that race. He's currently sitting 3rd as of right now, but William Schmidt and that 79 car, first laps he's led in this league, for the matter, is now out front here with just 10 laps to go here at Talladega Superspeedway. That allows Mitch Hobbs in that gold bowling Ford Mustang here with help from Sartaj Man, driving for Evo Simsport to help. Also Shane DiMantova behind him, Hunter Rupp, and Eli O'Quinn is that high line right there. But I think a lot of these guys on the bottom really want to get up top because the top line is what's going right now.
And that allowed the second group to really catch up to these guys ever since the drop of this green flag on the restart. Joe Berge, Cole Williams, Eli O'Quinn, Preston Cope in this group with Nick Miller, JJ Hill. They are starting to approach the back of these guys in this main group. 2 by 2 all the way down to Brody Garner and JJ Hill. Pretty much the largest we've seen this field. Now Shane DiMantova is going to try to move to the high side. Looks like no luck up there. No one's going to help him pretty much. And everyone's going to stick to the second line. And Mitch Hobbs will lead that lap with just 8 laps remaining here at Talladega. We are getting to the final portion of this race. And I think, just like you said, all bets are off. Anything can happen. Everyone's going to go for everything, especially a non-playoff driver. You're going to do everything you can. Still side by side, Mitch Hobbs still trying to fend off the 79.
It is go time. William Schmidt holds the field at bay as of right now. And look at that high line. They are stacked up right now. That the bottom line doesn't have the help they need. And I think now, you know, down the front straightaway into turn number 1, Mitch Hobbs could have that push from the 49 car. And like I said, those guys are going to try to jump up top because that's the lane that's moving right now, especially off of the corners when they have that momentum. And you know, we'll see that. We'll see that coming to the line here. And I think the outside is really dominant coming to the line.
7 laps to go now for William Schmidt up front with Mark Love right behind. And this will continue. Like you said, the outside just has the better run off the corners. They don't have the shorter way around the racetrack to their advantage. As you see, the inside line gets that run but as soon as they go back to the start-finish line, or especially the back straightaway at least, they have the run. And now this could allow other drivers to peak up top, and that does allow Mark Love to find the space to get up with help from Mitch Hobbs. Looks like Jack DeAndrea is going to follow the apron.
Oh, man.
So close, and there goes Joe Berge, 4 wide. I don't think that's going to work, and it almost does not. We'll see if it doesn't, and no, it doesn't. Glenn Bundren up into the pack. Jonathan Jones in the fence. Hard in the wall goes J.J. Hill, and a third yellow involves a playoff driver, 2 playoff drivers, in fact. Hard crash, vicious crash off of turn number 4.
And Glenn Bundren, I believe, is out of fast repairs.
Wow.
That could be the end of his run. He's only 21 points ahead of the cutoff. I'm not sure if he led a lap. No, he's led no laps. He doesn't have those bonus points. We're going to get a replay of this one.
That was huge, and that was already signaled trouble as soon as Glenn Bundren had the peak down low from Joe Berge. We'll take another replay. Looks like it started with Jack DeAndrea, who I think went down in the apron here. I'm not sure whether it was a...
Yeah. It's a tough spot to be in. It's a tough spot to be in. I think Glenn Bundren really pushed him up to the bumper. Hold on, we'll get a chopper cam of this one. I think Bundren just pushed him a little too close, and when you're pushing someone and someone pushes you from behind, that's just a really uncomfortable spot to be in. And I'm not sure if I would really place the blame on Jack there, but it just got really tied up there. I think that would just be a racing incident, in my opinion.
And then that enabled Glenn Bundren to have to check up, and then that allowed the 83 of Joe Berge to peek to the inside, and then that signaled 4 wide. And Glenn really had nowhere to go other than contact with the Ford Mustang right up at the top of him of Hunter Rupp. So really unfortunate situation for Glenn Bundren, who now has damage, has no fast repairs left in this race, and now has suspension damage, I think, as well. So he's going to have a lot to work on that race car in these final 6 laps, which doesn't look very likely for the 37. And hopefully that does not signify the end of his run, but considering the fact that Preston Cope is still on the racetrack with a clean race car, that could signal the end of his championship run. The former champion in trouble at Talladega. So 5 laps remaining. I expected it to go a little bit longer. Considering the amount of clean racing we had from there, Mark Love tried to make the move right before the yellow came out. He's still in second. He was not able to get ahead of that 79 when the yellow lights were displayed around the racetrack. Glenn Bundren is out of this race pretty much. Jack DeAndrea into 3rd. There goes Mitch Hobbs into 4th, who was up in here in this group. Lots of drivers who we haven't seen early on in this race starting to make an impact later on, and that definitely matters. There's Keelan Belsha in this group. There's Chandy Mantova, Cole Woody, Jacob Tyler-May, Brody Garner. Those couple of drivers there. As you see the other drivers down pit road, Benjamin Fanning being one of them. Nick Miller also there as well. So we've reached the pretty much signaling part of this race. 5 laps to go, and if we get a yellow, I think from here on out we could push this into the green-white checkered, which it has not just yet, but we're getting very close to it. And now we have so many drivers kind of out of this thing already, so many drivers involved in incidents, lots of shakeups, lots of new names up here. Charlie, is there anything you're kind of looking at?
I'm looking at Glenn Bundren right now because he was 21 points to the good. Ezekiel Reyes, who's on the cutoff 0. I'm going to pull up the points graphic here really quickly. Glenn Bundren was 21 points to the good. The max amount of points you can get from a race without bonus points is 25. With bonus points is 30. So he wasn't safe going into this race. And Preston Cope, who's 11 points behind on your screen as of right now, he is currently sitting 7th. Also, Ezekiel Reyes in that 04 car currently sitting 6th. So oh boy. I'm trying to do the math in my head here on where Glenn would stand, because I think he's done for the day.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, Jackson Harmon, Henry Tabor not in this race, so of course they'll be eliminated for sure. It was just all up to Preston Cope on whether he was able to keep himself and gain points from here on out. Now that Glenn Bundren is out of this race, I'm not sure whether the points gap will be enough, especially since Preston Cope has not led a lap, nor he has pretty much been near the front of this field. He's kind of been laying back and staying conservative as much as he can. Now he's in the first couple of rows in this race now in these final 5 laps, and who knows what could happen from here on out. there could be another wreck that involves a 47 that possibly gives more of a cushion to Glenn Bundren. Nick Miller also a little bit further back in this field. He also might take a little bit of a hit if he stays where he is. He has that damage from the wreck, and I think he used his fast repair before the wreck, so he is currently 16th right now. It has a lot to make up in terms of the points. Boy, this could really shake up the point standings if any push comes to shove at the end of tonight's event. Going to be a lot to calculate after tonight's race. Of course, drivers who are safe, much like Parker White, who kind of gunned for the race lead early on, got involved in an incident. He's currently a couple rows up, so he probably doesn't have much to lose. He'll lose a couple points, and he'll definitely move on to the next round. And, of course, Blaze McKinney is obviously locked in with a win at Chicago. So, 5 laps to go. 2 Camaros up front, William Schmidt, Mark Love, who have yet to capture the first win. I think anyone in this first couple of rows have yet to capture their first win this season. And none of them have taken a win. None of them. William Schmidt has not picked up a win. Neither has Mark Love. Jack DeAndrea, Mitch Hobbs have kind of gotten close, but not have been there yet. Joe Berge, no wins. Ezekiel Reyes has not captured a win, although he's been up front a good portion of some of these races. Cole Williams has had that top 5 streak, but has not been up there to take a win, and neither has Preston Cope. Brody Garner has a race win, but he is not a playoff driver, but he is currently the first driver a couple rows back in row number 5 that has a race win. So this 4 rows occupied with drivers that have yet to pick up a win. This is going to be wild.
For sure. We're going to restart with 4 laps to go. I would hope that these guys would, you know, all bets are off like we said earlier, but I would hope these guys try to stick it out towards the white flag so we can have a really fantastic finish without a bunch of wrecked race cars here. But the pace car is pulling off into the pit road. William Schmidt's going to lead into the green flag momentarily.
So the 79, 43, Schmidt, Love, DeAndrea, Hobbs, Berge, Ezekiel Reyes will lead the field to the green off of the tri-oval. The 79 will step on the gas pedal and signal the green flag with 5 laps remaining. Green flag is back out. Good jump by the 79. We still got a little bit left to go. We'll see who gets out.
Well, with a push from Hobbs.
And clean through 1 and 2 goes Mark Love and William Schmidt. Now Mark Love gets shoved out of the way by Mitch Hobbs, so he'll fall back and try to find an opening in this group to get back in the draft. So new race leader Mitch Hobbs. Ezekiel Reyes wasted no time in getting back up this field. He is now up in the charge on the outside lane, followed by Cole Williams. Contact, Mitch Hobbs is up in the wall, and they're wrecking again off turn 4. William Schmidt, that is a large wreck, including Preston Cope, Cole Williams, Mark Love, Shane DiMantova, Nick Miller again. The 017 of Darren Myers involved. Berge escapes. DeAndrea Garner escapes. Another huge crash, and that'll definitely start the train of green-white checkers.
Yeah, this is going to push us into our first green-white checkered finish here. Some of these cars staying unscathed as of right now. Joe Berge comes out the race leader. We're going to go ahead and get a replay of that one because that took out a lot of playoff drivers. Nick Miller involved in there as well. He's not safe. He's only 13 points ahead. And while that's happening, Keelan Belsha comes away clean. So does JJ Hill. This major change is about to happen in the playoff picture.
Preston Cope was also involved in an incident. You see the damage. Ezekiel Reyes also, who's on the cutoff, escapes with damage. He's going to have to try and get that fixed. I'm not sure whether he still has his fast repair to his advantage and to his disposal. But we're just going to have to see when he goes down pit road. Take another replay and see exactly what went down off of turn number 4. And this exactly what was the train that started it. Mark Love got put out the way. He got put up to the high line by Mitch Hobbs. So then that allowed Mitch Hobbs to sneak under. And it looked pretty harmless from there. 3 wide, like we've seen numerous times this evening. And it looked okay. Mark Love was just kind of shuffling back. Here was blocking by the 89 and the 04. They have been in entanglements ever since Chicago. And I think right here was the trouble spot where he gets the tap from William Schmidt, gets into the 04. The 79 gets shoved up the racetrack. And then everyone scrambling and drivers shoving down the racetrack. And Nick Miller with a wild ride down near the pit entry. Lots of drivers involved in that. Lots of cars scathed up.
all those cars just tried to fling left there, and a lot of them got loose doing it. And oh my goodness, big hits to the inside wall. Parker White with damage. He used his fast repair already. Shane DiMantova as well. Wow. I can't say how much this is going to shake up everything.
And you think with just only one driver being eliminated after tonight, of course the other two already are pretty much eliminated since they're not here. But the fact that one playoff spot, that final transfer spot would be just under so much tension with so many drivers in trouble. And you see the drivers with damage. There's Parker White with heavy front end damage. Ezekiel Reyes with hard front end damage. He does not have a fast repair, so he has to stick it out on pit road. And then Nick Miller with damage. His night is surely over unless he's able to turn that car back on and get back over. You see William Schmidt now has his fast repair, so luckily he's able to get away from there and try to fend off for a race win, at least at having a second chance.
Oh, Shane.
Here.
Shane still
and
has
Shane gets his... Wow, Shane DiMantova had his the whole time, and he was involved in 2 incidents.
Yeah, I noticed on the last restart, he had a bit of rear end damage, so I guess he was just saving it. He didn't go down and just fix that small bit of damage, so really good call. Obviously anticipating another big that could have taken him out, and it did. So he used his fast repair, saved it very wisely. Same with Sartaj Mann and also Keelan Belsha. He's currently 3 laps down on the racetrack right now. But as these guys, that wreck happened, all those playoff guys especially, they're gonna lose spots. So he just needs to run 3 laps and get a couple spots ahead of them, and he'll have the points that he needs to punch his ticket in the next round.
Also noting that the 87 of Benjamin Fanning also had a fast repair to his disposal because his car is perfectly clean. He got damaged from that wreck after being an innocent bystander as the field kind of went down into all the other cars. He was involved, so he had his fast repair. Now he's able to use it. So he'll be up in this main group, but so many drivers, so many playoff drivers. As you see, Keelan Belsha goes down pit road. So many of them involved. Boy, I was not expecting this whatsoever. But then again, it is Talladega. You kind of have to expect a little bit of chaos here and there. And like you said at the top of the broadcast, Charlie, that you expected this. Certainly as it has lived up to its name. Now the 2 leaders are... Actually, the leader is the driver who was a lap down previously, Joe Berge, under that pit road cycle. So he is back to the lead lap and especially to this race lead. Jack DeAndrea got away barely. He was behind William Schmidt when William Schmidt got tagged by the 04 of Ezekiel Reyes. He escaped with no damage. He is now in second. Brody Garner, last week's race winner at the Roval. He is now into third. He has another opportunity to win a race and go 2 in a row in this series, which will help him out immensely and just make him certainly happy to take 2 wins in a row. Then Cole Woody, who has been close to wins numerous times in this series, most notably Charlotte, Las Vegas. He had a strategy, did not work out, so he's back here, especially Chicago where he finished 3rd. James J. Hill, a playoff driver who's tied for 5th with Keelan Belsha, is the first playoff driver until you reach, of course, that's Benjamin Fanning, who's locked in under replacement for Blaze McKinney, but Preston Cope is up here now. So if we stay like we are, Preston Cope certainly has the upper hand here because J.J. Hill has to fend off, usually has to fend off Glenn Bundren, Nick Miller, and Keelan Belsha at least for the points tying situation. But now that Keelan Belsha is 3 laps down, Glenn Bundren is out of this race. Nick Miller is probably for sure out of this race as well, and even if he rejoins the race, he won't have anything for these leaders and he won't have the speed. So J.J. Hill will gain immensely off this race, and more so Preston Cope, who now has Ezekiel Reyes behind him, who now has Nick Miller, Glenn Bundren behind him, Keelan Belsha now behind him. If he finishes on the lead lap with these points, he is secured a spot into next round. So all the 47 has to do is just stay consistent, stay where he is, try to be as safe as he can as the pace car comes off pit road with what could be the final restart in this Talladega event. Joe Berge will lead the field with Jack DeAndrea, Brody Garner, Cole Woody as some of them start to file back in a double wide formation. They'll do so right at the tri-oval, and it looks like the green flag restart will start, and the green flag is out. I think we've got a bunch of drivers shuffling up. I don't think that was a very now the green flag is out, so very odd restart for all these drivers, but still 3 laps to go Lots of drivers going 3 wide. There's Mitch Hobbs already trying to attack to the high side.
Yeah, that was a very weird kind of coordinated restart. I'm not really sure what the goal was there. I don't know if admins were trying to do something there, but down the back straightaway with 2 laps to go. Currently, Joe Berge out in front there with Jack DeAndre behind. Jack DeAndre's buddy, JJ Hill, behind him. But on the outside, Brody Garner with help from Cole Woody behind him. Also, Shane DiMantilva. All those guys going back into battle with their shields and swords up. Here comes Benjamin Fanning and Preston Cope behind there as well. Down the front straightaway, they're going to come to 1 lap to go here as they pass through this tri-oval. Just 2.5 more miles around this racetrack. Joe Berge and Brody Garner are going to be side by side. 1 lap to go here at Talladega.
Woody has the advantage, giving the shove to Brody Garner. That'll leave the 55 to the race lead. And we'll see if he dips down and try and block the 83 of Joe Berge, who has the charge with Jack DeAndrea and JJ Hill. Now Preston Cope is shoved through the middle. Shane DiMantilva now peaks low under the 014. That's going to move him high. There is a run by the 20 of Shane DiMantilva down to the bottom. He's going to try and take the race lead from the 55 down to the bottom, and they're wrecking Joe Berge around with the 87 of Benjamin Fanning. They're going to try to scramble around, and this will be the battle for the race win off of turn number 4 for the final time. Here comes Cole Woody with help from Mitch Hobbs. The 47 of Preston Cope, he goes around into the grass. Final wrap around the tri-oval. It'll be side by side line. They're wrecking once again, and it'll be Shane DiMantilva with a win, I think barely over Brody Garner, and it will be Shane DiMantilva. A first win in the Bundren Lawn Care Series comes here at Talladega in a wild ending that definitely will shake up the playoff picture coming into next week.
Wow, I don't know what I have no words about that one. They were wrecking all across the tri-oval there, and Shane DiMantilva was really the sole survivor there. Contact with the 55 there. Preston Cope finishes just outside the top 10. He was almost having a top 2 run there coming to the line. But, oh my goodness, we're going to show you guys a replay of that one because that was nuts.
So much action happening through that final lap. You saw the contact with Joe Berge, and I believe it was, we'll see, well, I think it was Cole Woody there, but or one of the drivers here. I'm not sure, but we'll have to take another replay. And here was Joe Berge fending off with Brody Garner, Cole Woody. This was going into turn 1 on the final lap, so all bets were off here. And I think contact started somewhere around, I think, turn 3, where Berge was involved in the incident. I think he might have had contact with the 87 of Benjamin Fanning, and I think right here the contact starts, and there it is. I think right there. I think they checked up, and there goes the 87 and the 83 all the way back. Then Preston Cope follows suit, and then Preston Cope had a wild ride through the grass to finish this race. He got shoved out of the way. I think he just kind of got loose off of going into the tri-oval, maybe some help. And yeah, there's the help from Brody Garner, so he gets unsettled quickly through the grass. Here they were wrecking at the start-finish line. Brody Garner looked to have had the win, and then a spin right before the start-finish line where Shane DiMantilva edged him barely. My goodness. So there he is, burning it down with a pretty much torn off rear end, and we're going to be waiting patiently, chewing our nails to find out which drivers made it, which drivers did not for the next round, and how that affects the playoffs going into the weeks forward. We're going to take a results and just see where everybody finished at the end of this one. Lots of things to note at the end of this race. Shane DiMantilva, first win in the Bundren Lawn Care Series, comes here at Talladega. A wild, wild finish with Brody Garner, who finishes just right behind in second, spinning across the line. Cole Woody takes another top 3 finish after his finish at third at Chicagoland, so he matches his best finish in this series, third here at Talladega. Mark Love finishes in the top 4 after kind of an up and down running, and was up there at the end of the race. Jacob Tyler May, a top 5. William Schmidt bounces back to 6th place. Sartaj Mann finishes 7th. Jack DeAndre, who was up there in the end of the race, finishes 8th. Benjamin Fanning 9th in replacement of Blaze McKinney. And rounding out this top 10, Joe Berge, who was unfortunately involved in an incident with that 87.
Ezekiel Reyes in that number 04 car finished 11th. Hunter Rupp in that 61 car finishes 12th. Parker White in that 95 is still looking for a good finish for him. He's been really consistent throughout the season and just really can't pull off those finishes. But I think he's safe enough to punch his ticket into the next round. So Darren Myers behind him. Cole Williams finishes 15th. Preston Cope finishes 16th. I thought he finished a lot higher than that, but he might have gotten an incident penalty through the trial over there. Because that DQ does send you to the end of the lead lap. Mitch Hobbs contact that brought out the final restart caution. Finishes 17th. Eli O'Quinn 18th. JJ Hill 19th, and Killabel show 3 laps down to round out your top 20.
Then back on at 21st is Dominic Howland, the 30, who was up there in the beginning of this race, wasn't able to get back. He finishes 3 laps down. Then goes Nick Miller. Unfortunate ending to what was a promising first half of the race for Nick Miller. Finishes 5 laps under in 22nd. Then Jonathan Jones, who had a wild ride through the fence, 23rd. Glenn Bundren, who needed points, finishes 24th. Sean Dobson, 25th. Aaron Mulrooney, 26th. AJ Bain, 56 laps down, 27th. Kadarius Tave, 28th. Liam Sheen, 29th. Aiden Kirker, among some of the drivers who I don't think really made any starts, or at least had just 1 lap or 3 laps to their name. That signifies the end of the 30 car field here at Talladega. When we come back, we have post-race coverage here on the KBueno Racing Network, and we'll have interviews with I believe the top 3 or just top 5, including the race winner, not Brody Garner, Shane DiMantova. And we'll get the interview also with Brody Garner, Cole Woody, and a couple other drivers, especially going into next week in the Bundren Lawn Care Series playoffs. You're watching the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series from Talladega Superspeedway right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. Stay tuned. We got more coming next. Live from the Talladega Superspeedway, where we kick off our KBRN post-race coverage, brought to you by SDC. And what a finish we had here at the Talladega Superspeedway. Not a lot of words other than chaotic to describe those final laps. And at the end of that, right to the line, the winner was Shane DiMantova. First win of the season for him. We'll bring him into the booth. And Shane, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us, first of all?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, first time you're in this booth, I believe, since Iowa, where you finished third. And now you're in a different spot. You finally take a race win in this season, going through those final laps with Brody Garner and the rest of them. First of all, just walk us through what happened there and your perspective behind the wheel as you were coming to the checkered flag.
It's crazy, honestly. We start in 11th. I was involved in that last wreck that happened that brought out the caution, and I would save my flash repair all race, luckily. So I used it, got some fresh tires, came back 11th. And I don't know, we just started cooking on the restart. I had Cole Williams pushing me and him were hooked up. And so I just waited on the outside lane the first lap, but then once we got the white flag, then I waited until the backstretch, and then simply basically flew up the middle, had a huge run, and got up front and coming to the line. It was just a mad dash, and I mean, I feel bad for getting into Brody, but I mean, it was a win, so.
Certainly a wild ending between you and Brody Garner, and of course the rest of the drivers who were pretty much scrambling and wrecking behind you. I want to talk to you about this entire race in general. I know that you're not a playoff driver, so not much discussion going into point standings or anything of that nature, but you had a different first half of this race as opposed to what happened through the second half. You were running in the first group with guys like Nick Miller, Ezekiel Reyes, lots of drivers who were up front in this race. Then came the second half where they pretty much all disappeared after the wrecks. Tell us how that experience was from the perspective behind the wheel and how that really affected the way you handled this race further on.
I feel like up front, I got know how guys drove up there and what moves they were making. So I kind of knew and took that into play at the end of the race. And we actually got up there and led a couple laps early on ish into the race. And so that definitely helped me.
And Shane, a first victory for you in the Bundren Lawn Care Series. And before we let you go to celebrate your victory here at Talladega, you got any team sponsors, anybody you'd just like to shout out or thank for making tonight's effort possible?
Yeah, a bunch of people. Glenn Bundren, honestly, just putting together this whole series. Eel Media, you guys, KBRN, SPG, Sim Performance Group, and DJ Lion, all those guys. And basically, Days Gone By Ventured Apparel. That's really about it.
All right, Shane, we'll let you celebrate here in your first win of the season. Congratulations on a chaotic victory nonetheless for you here at Talladega. We thank you for taking the time to join us and talk with us after this race. And we hope to see you going on into the next couple of races at Martinsville and, of course, the other short tracks throughout the season.
Yep, thank you, Kenneth.
Shane DiMantova out of the booth. He finishes in victory lane here at Talladega Superspeedway. First win of the season. We'll slip back to second where Brody Garner had a unfortunate ending, heartbreaking finish. He could have gone 2 in a row. Charlie is there with the interview.
And into the booth, Brody Garner. You got a copy with us?
Yep.
Well, Brody, finished first this week. I finished second. Finished first last week, finished second this week. A very chaotic finish for sure, getting turned in the trial by the 20 car. I'll get to that in a moment, but I just wanted to ask, how did that race go for you as a whole?
It was very up and down. I qualified third, and then I dropped back, and I didn't like the people I was surrounded by, so I went to the back of the pack, avoided a wreck, and then got ARCA braked, typical from some people in here, and then lost a draft because I had damage, went through a couple pit stops, went a lap down, wrecked, and then managed to get back on the lead lap and made my way through the field and ended up giving myself a good position at the end. So just very up and down overall.
And coming to the line there, losing that race to Shane DiMantova, what could have gone better for you to just finish one spot ahead of him and take the win here today?
If that wreck wouldn't have happened in the travel, I probably would have got it, and yeah, that's probably all. I had Shane edged out, and he kind of came up, tried to get me loose, and it turned me. I don't blame him. I'd do the same thing, just racing. But yeah, I think only thing I could have done is maybe gone higher and just not had that wreck happen. That's all.
All right, well, Brody, thank you so much for racing with us in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series. In 2 weeks, your average finish is 1.5, so I think that's pretty good for you. So thank you for coming out here and racing with us. But before we let you go, and hope to see you next week, but before we let you go, do you have any teams or anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Blue Chew America's Dan Neese, owner of the team. They're my road racing team, great bunch of guys. Help me be a better driver overall. That's all.
All right, well, Glenn, we hope to see you next week, and we wish you the best of luck there.
Thank you.
That was Brody Garner finishing just short after contacting the trial with Shane DiMantova. Next up, third place finisher Cole Woody in that 014 car. Kenneth is trackside with the interview.
And Cole, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us first of all?
I got a headache.
Oh man, Cole, well, you match your best finish of third. You match it from your finish at Chicago, where you finished in third. You finished third here tonight. Tell us how that race went, especially coming down on the checker flag with D. Mantova and Brody Garner in front of you.
Well, for most of that race, I couldn't even stay in draft after me and Dobson got together, but I stayed on track, thinking maybe if I play this right, I can get up there. And knowing how these races work, I knew they were just going to crash no matter what, and luck just went in our favor.
Well, I mean, certainly nothing to really complain about. Third place finish must feel great, and I know that you were kind of up and down through a good portion of this race. You were involved, I believe, in one of the larger wrecks off turn 4, and you had a little bit of things to go through. With that faster pair, did any of that strategy kind of help you out going to the end, or was it kind of just keeping the car clean until the checker flag?
It's just mostly keeping the car clean, because knowing Talladega, you got to be either really conservative or really lucky. And if I had a little bit of both, I would have been fine. And thank God for the fast repair. Otherwise, I would have never been in that position that I was in on the last lap.
All right, Cole. Well, an amazing finish for you, and I know that you've pretty much have sent a message to a lot of these, to the field pretty much on how you've been able to keep up with the front of this field, especially when it came to strategy. This time it wasn't really strategy based, more just kind of being there at the end. But before we let you go on your third place finish, you got any sponsors, any teams, anybody you'd just like to thank for making tonight's effort happen?
Jack Daniels and Red Apple Ale.
All right. Well, Cole Woody, we're going to let you go. Congratulations on a third place finish. We thank you for taking the time to talk with us and go through what really happened in your race. And we hope to see you coming into Martinsville in the next couple of races through the end of the season.
Thank you very much.
Cole Woody out of the booth. He finishes inside the top 3, matches his personal best finish ever since Chicagoland Speedway. We're going to look back to 4th. Well, Mark Love sits. I don't think Mark Love is in the waiting room right now, so I think we'll just kind of stoop back to the next driver in line, and Charlie will definitely have that interview for you. I think 5th place finish. Actually, correction, Jacob Talladega is not in the waiting room, so I don't think he is the driver in the waiting room. I think the next driver we have is William Schmidt, who's one of the more compelling storylines in this race. Started near the back of the field, went all the way up to the front of this field, led a good portion of this race, got involved in an incident, came back to muster 6th place. Charlie is with the interview with him.
Into the booth. William, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, William, it was an up and down race for you for sure, but before I get to the finish there, just how did that race go for you as a whole?
Yeah, the plan was to just stay at the back of the main pack, and it worked pretty well. Ended up cycling to the lead after that big one around 3/4 of the way through the race, and just hope to try to stay in the lead from there, but ended up getting caught up in that final big one.
Yeah, and finishing just outside the top 5, I have to ask, what could have gone better for you to really just improve your finishing position? Because you were just so close to a top 5, and I guess what could have gone better to maybe getting up there and stealing the win?
The first obvious thing is if Zeke actually would have saved the car, but that didn't happen. But yeah, on the actual finish, I feel like we could have easily gotten the top 5. I just might have gone a little higher during that final wreck because I ended up dooring the 43, but if I went higher, I might have been able to at least kind of keep myself going a little bit.
All right, well, William, thank you so much for coming out here and racing with us in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, and we hope to see you next week racing with us, I believe, at Auto Club. So before we let you go, do you have any teams or anyone that you want to give a shout out to before we send you off?
Yeah, of course I want to thank my sponsors, Motorsport United and Side Drafting Productions, and I want to thank everyone who I was working with in that call. You know who you are, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay, well, Schmidt, hope to see you next week, and we wish you the best of luck.
All right, thank you.
William Schmidt's one of the ice car drivers who comes over and races with us, but we promised top 5 interviews, but we're going to go ahead and just do 5 interviews for tonight, ending with Sartaj Mann in 7th place. Kenneth is going to be trackside with an interview momentarily.
And Sartaj, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy with us?
Yeah.
All right, Sartaj. Well, you definitely had one of the more interesting days here in the Talladega Superspeedway. You were up here mostly with this main group. I saw you shuffle back just a little bit. I know that pit strategy kind of changed a lot of things up in terms of a lot of the separation between a good portion of the drivers, and you were kind of in the mix for a good portion of this race. Then you end up here in this top 10 in this final pack for that final restart and that final trip all the way down to the checkered flag. Was there really anything kind of worrying behind the wheel when you kind of saw all those drivers kind of bunched up together right in front of you?
Well, I mean, they weren't right in front of me. I was sort of in that whole thing, and when I think Cole came down on me and I came up on him, I think I was like, you know what, I'm just going to floor it here. Whatever happens, happens. And then Preston comes out of nowhere, I think. He's running in the grass, and he kills me there. And I somehow finish, I think it was 8th or 9th, I think. Something like that. But yeah, it was worrying all day, just being in this whole pack as a whole. Yeah.
Well, definitely a wild race, and I know that a lot of other drivers have said the same thing along with us. And that final stint in the race was just insane. And I know that you had a fellow share of your teammates up there. You had Nick Miller, you had Aaron Mulrooney, you had Shane DiMantova up there as well, one of the affiliates of you. And by the end of that race, you and Shane were pretty much the only drivers affiliated in that team together ever since Nick Miller and Aaron Mulrooney got in trouble. Was there any sort of game plan switch when you had the teammates around you as opposed to not having any of them around you and just having a bunch of other drivers who maybe you probably weren't working with?
Well, knowing that it was only Shane that was left, that, you know, was my teammate at the end, I was like, and he was all the way across the field from me. I was like, I have to go with somebody now. I have to go for myself. I don't have any like help now. I have to do everything on my own at that point.
All right, Sartaj. Well, a top 10 finish for you here tonight at Talladega. Before we let you go to move on to Martinsville next week, you got any sponsors, teams, or pretty much anyone you'd just like to thank for making this run at Talladega happen?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank my team, SPG.
All right, well, we're going to let you go. Top 10 finish for you. Certainly a wild race. We hope to see you coming to Martinsville next week and, of course, through the rest of the races onto the championship at Phoenix. And we hope to see you putting on some great performances up front, bud.
All right.
Sartaj out of the booth, and he concludes the interviews for tonight's action from the Talladega Superspeedway and the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series race. Charlie, not really many words to describe for this race. While we were under break, we were just kind of silent for the whole time, just kind of in awe of what really happened there. Not really sure what to describe this race, what to really put together for this race, but if there's anything really to take away from here, if there's really anything, would there kind of be a takeaway from this race, or at least something that could possibly transfer over to the next couple weeks in the playoff picture?
Well, a lot of friends were made tonight and a lot of enemies were made tonight, for sure. And I'm sure this is going to carry over into next week. And next week, I can tell you, I said next week was Auto Club, but I'm pretty sure it's Martinsville. You can correct me if I'm wrong right there. Is it?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, so that's only going to fuel the fire even more. So that's just playoff drama. That's just how these races are going to go down. This was a very insane round of races we had here in the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, playoff round 1. So, yeah, that's really going to do it on my thoughts for tonight. I want to thank all the viewers here for coming out supporting the broadcast. It means so much to us. We put a lot of work into these things. The promos, the graphics, everything, it means a lot to us. So, yeah, next week is only going to get wilder, and as we advance and start to close this season down, it's really going to be a dogfight for the championship.
I think if there's really anything to take away from here, this race at Talladega, is that even if you're a playoff driver, you are definitely not safe from the hands of anything that it could be out of your control. We saw so many playoff drivers in trouble, and not only in this race, in this entire round, we saw drivers have issues. Just starting with Chicago, we saw Glenn Bundren with issues. We saw Keelan Belshaw with issues, JJ Hill with issues. Then we move on to the Charlotte Roval, where Blaze McKinney has an issue. Of course, not in his control, but he was also out of the race. Ezekiel Reyes had a really big hole coming into tonight, just short of the bubble. Henry Tabor did not have a great run. Neither did Preston Cope. And then coming into this race at Talladega, you see the same thing. Nick Miller, Ezekiel Reyes, and the whole bunch just involved in incidents, being set back, finishing way further back in the field, then it really just shows that nobody is safe from anything. Nobody is safe from any sort of kind of anything at all whatsoever. But really crazy ending. Next week we have coverage of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, and the playoffs will continue in the second round from Martinsville. That'll be from the paperclip at 9 p.m. Eastern right here on the KBueno Racing Network. Lots of chaos and tensions to be built up over there. But for everyone here at the Bundren Lawn Care Series, for all the drivers that participated in tonight's event, for Shane DiMantovo for taking his first win of the season, for all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Baier, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying good night from Talladega Superspeedway. We'll be at the paperclip next week.